Hello everyone. I will present you today King James Bible and its influence on the standardization of English.
No storm can hide that peaceful radiance beaming, since Jesus came to seek and save the lost.
Firstly, let me introduce you King James. He is son of Queen Mary of Scotland. He was born in Edinburgh in 1566 and died in England in 1625. He is James VI of Scotland and first third King of England. He named himself as the King of Great Britain. When we think about the value of sacred texts in societies and remember that attending to the church was obligatory in those days, it will not be difficult to imagine the biblical effect on evolving standard language. It's known that Welsh language is saved from extinction thanks to flowing Bishop Bible. These Bibles, from King James back to Tyndale, provide the continuity of language, and this continuity strengthens the rising standard in the 16th century. I will introduce you Tyndale's Bible firstly, because his Bible highly influenced King James Bible with its vocabulary, phrasing, and most memorable allusions, which still survives today. It's the first English Bible aiming to reach to the ordinary people. Tyndale declares that he will write a translation that even the boy who plows the field can understand. In the 16th century, these were very difficult and dangerous attempts. An understandable Bible would threaten the power of the monarch and the church. Finally, he was executed and reading his Bible was forbidden. There was a brutal ongoing struggle between the Catholic and Protestant sects. During the coronation process of King James, Puritan leaders presented the king with the millenary petition. As a response, the king called the Hampton Court Conference to discuss the reforms requested by Puritans. He refused all their requests and threatened them to exile, but approved the claim for a new Bible translation. His motivation was to control a divided and fighting society via a single and official Bible. He would also transfer the power of clergy to the king. Incidentally, he caused to the democratization of the Bible by giving a Bible with an understandable language in all people's hands. The existing of printing technology and the fact that the exiled Puritans take the Bible with them played an important role in the spread of King James Bible and its language. King James Bible is still a reference for all dictionaries, a standard text for quotations. As a great source of inspiration in literature, it provided writers things to write about. It prompted writers to write in a certain way. It rendered Hebrew and Greek thought expressions into memorable and fluent English. We need a Bible background information to understand Milton's poem Paradise Lost, for example, or Romantic era in literature. Alan Thomas tells its importance saying, "No book has had greater influence on the English language." Samuel Tyler Coleridge says, "Its study would keep any writer from being vulgar in point of style." Lastly, from a politician perspective, Winston Churchill emphasizes unity and praises it, saying, "A masterpiece uniting English-speaking people everywhere." King James Bible has been praised for its simplicity, dignity, power, happy turns of expressions, the music of its cadence and rhythm. When we talk about the King James Bible effect on English language, we need to take it from a social linguistic perspective. It was the authorized version and was also appointed to be read in churches. These two features provided the selected language of the Bible, which is mostly London dialect, a national existence, and a high level of prestige. So, it became more common and longer lasting than other Bibles and their languages. Translators were highly conservative. They were strictly dependent on old Bible traditions. The bishop's Bible was required as a model by the king. They often preferred older forms of the language, not modern alternatives. In this part of my presentation, I will talk about language features of King James Bible. Its dignified simplicity is its most impressive features. 93% of its words are in English, and most of them are four-lettered monosyllabic ones. New words and phrases such as shurop, alleluia, or scapegoat are introduced to the language, but we can't compare with the contribution of Shakespeare because translators had no aim to improve the language. They translated ancient Hebrew evangelistic and theoretical metaphors faithfully and enabled them to take place in English language, even with secular meanings. You can't make a leopard change his spots is a nice example. The language is aphoristic, so memorable, and an eye for an eye can be given as an example. Biblical characters and place names became familiar and types. For example, I don't know him from Adam, or this place is like Sodom and Gomorrah. Translators achieved rhythmic smoothness and energy with stress patterns of spoken English. I will continue my presentation with the perspective of Professor David Crystal, who is one of the most important living experts on English language. When this issue is considered from David Crystal's perspective, the archives of King James Bible, which still contribute to English language with endless punning and jokes, will come to the fore. Beget is a good example. Its biblical meaning is to be a father. For example, Adam begat Cain and Abel. But it means to have influence on somebody today. Example, Claire begat Michelle. Begat is also the name of Crystal's last book about King James Bible. According to Crystal, King James Bible is the most influential book which affects the language in the way of idiomatic or quasi-proverbial expressions. David Crystal states that the language of King James Bible mostly is not used anymore. No one speaks in Jacobin style. He describes many differences in spelling, grammar, or vocabulary. If we start with spelling, it began to change in second edition and continued evolving in later printings. Spelling is standardized to modern form by Cambridge University in 2005. There is huge difference in punctuation because it was recently arising at that time. There was no quotation marks, for example, or we have greengrocer's apostrophe, but we don't have potatoes one as plural today. In vocabulary, there are many changes. We don't use what in meaning no. We see some words only in hymns these days, like thou, ye. Grammar rules were very striking. The word ending eth, like moveth, diggeth, doesn't exist anymore. There are stylistic differences, for example, to introduce a sentence with the word and or using repetitions is a big mistake now. And every man that offered an offering of gold unto the Lord is a good example of out of fashion usage that exists in the Bible. For David Crystal, whether biblical phrases are used in everyday life in non-biblical settings is proof of their impact on language. And this point is the most impressive feature of the King James Bible. The phrases of King James Bible are adopted with wordplays and allusions. I will explain these features with an example from Genesis chapter 4, the Cain and Abel story. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, They have gotten the man from the Lord. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel, thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I me brother's keeper? At the end of the paragraph, we find a phrase familiar to us. We see this phrase, my brother's keeper, as a name of TV series episodes, songs, websites, a motorcycle organization, or a name of an anti racism group. Let's see changes and adaptations of this phrase that took place in the newspapers together. Pronoun change. Our brother's keepers foundation. Gender of a noun. My sister's keepers. Am I brother's dog's keeper? Am I my brother's sister-in-law's computer's keeper? Whole word is replaced. Am I my senator's keeper? Here is another example. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we shall die. There are two separate phrases here normally. One in Isa, the other one is in Luke. They come together in modern English. David Crystal finds adaptations of biblical expressions in daily life with word plays, puns, metaphors, and allusions so valuable. But as a result of his recent studies, he finds exaggerated to say that King James Bible has shaped modern English or it is the DNA of the English language. Here are some more examples. We use a fly in the ointment to tell something is basically going well, but there is a little problem. Bush is the fly in player's ointment. This is really a language ingenuity. We use 11th hour to remind our kid to be punctual. Don't leave your homework until the 11th hour. His days are numbered is used if someone is suspected of misdoings. Let me finalize my presentation with conclusion part. It was the basic source in people's own language. It was used as a textbook at schools, read and heard at church every Sunday. As a natural consequence of this frequent use, it enabled continuity of language and contributed standardization of it. It's surprising that there are only 257 phrases which are used in daily life today, and only 18 of them are originated King James Bible. This Bible played an important role popularizing the biblical phrases. Thank you for your attention.
Give me the Bible, star of gladness gleaming, to cheer the wanderer, lone and tempest tossed. No storm can hide that peaceful radiance beaming, since Jesus came to seek and save the lost.